Hello guys, Antoine here for Simarchitecture and welcome back to a new video. First of all, I would like to wish you a happy new year. I hope 2022 will be a great year, better than the last 2 years that we lived. I also hope that this year will be full of new projects, opportunities, joyful moments, and all you wish for. So I was like, why not start the new year with the most expensive build I ever built in my Sim career. This is not exactly how it started, but it's actually how it ended up. So here we are with this build, which is worth almost 4 million simoleons. You will wonder why it's so expensive, because the house is not that huge. I mean, it's not built on a 64 by 64 lot. It's a 30 by 30, which is not a very big lot, but the house is extremely large. I mean, there's so many levels, so many rooms, so many secrets that you will discover a bit later, that the house is absolutely expensive and over the top. So this house was inspired by the Gilded Age architecture. If you're not aware of Gilded Age, or if you're not American, because it's something from the American history, Gilded Age is the period of time between the end of the Secession War and the Great Depression. So during this time, the country got more and more industrialized. A very wealthy upper class emerged, and the manifestation of this upper class emerging in the US is mostly architecture. I mean, from what we can see, it also has to do with the economy, but the concrete manifestation of the Gilded Age was mostly the architecture. So in all the great cities of the US, you could see huge buildings, either private or public, which were trying to copy or get inspired by old European styles, which were considered as the most elaborate and elegant and beautiful. So the Gilded Age doesn't fit with only one architectural style. It's actually a mix of different styles. So in one build you can see inspiration from the Renaissance, the Baroque era, from the neoclassical style, from the Rococo style, and this is what makes it so interesting. I think the greatest place to see Gilded Age architecture was probably New York, even though most of the houses and mansions were destroyed now, but you can still see whole buildings from this time. But the best place probably, and I've never been there, in one of my dreams, it's Newport. There are all the greatest houses of the Gilded Age, like the Marble House, the Helms, and yes, okay, I forgot the names of the house, but they're absolutely fantastic. And the Breakers, of course, yes, the house of the Vanderbilt family, and many other great houses. Even in Newport, there are a lot of remaining houses, but a lot of them were also destroyed, because when the Great Depression came, it was impossible for the people living there to maintain the house, and most of them got to bankruptcy, so didn't have any money to maintain the house. And when you see the size of the house, I think it was not in the spirit of the time after the Gilded Age to live in such houses. So a lot of them got destroyed, sadly. But there are a lot of pictures in archives that you can explore, and you will see how rich and incredible this time was. So for this house, I got inspired by mostly from old houses from New York City, there are several Vanderbilt mansions. I was also inspired by the Frick collection. And for the backside of the house that you can see right now, I was rather inspired by a place located in Paris. This is actually a museum in which I work. This is the Jacques Marandré Museum, built in the late 19th century by a art collector couple who built a huge mansion in Paris for their art, and this was my inspiration. So I'm not going to tell you everything about the house because there's a lot to say, and it's probably better to see it. But I will tell you about the main rooms and how the house is organized. So you have to come from the streets. There's quite a small door. It's not a monumental door, just like you could see in a palace, because it's still a city mansion. So you enter from there, and there's a big entrance hall with the main staircase. There is a small office for the main butler, or yes, for the butler. There is, in the first version, a waiting room, which was turned a bit later into a staircase leading to the basement, but we will talk about this later. There is also a private museum or art gallery. I don't know really how to call it, because when I was building the house, as always, I was imagining a whole story of the people living here. And I was thinking that the family living here were art dealers. So they used the house also as a showroom, kind of to sell their art and attract new clients. So in the ground floor, there is also the kitchen and all the areas dedicated to the servants. So there's a big kitchen, some utilitarians room, and a few bedrooms for the servants and butlers. Now, if you go up, you will come to a sort of foyer or waiting room, which actually connects all the main rooms of the first floor. So there is the main living room, which I adore because it has a very high ceiling with artworks everywhere. It just feels very luxurious, and I love it. You will find different sitting areas. There's a breakfast room, a dining room, another living room or sitting room. There's an office, a library, a gambling room. And for these rooms, I was really trying to mix different styles. So according to me, it really feels like 19th century because many influences were used, mostly from the 18th century, but also from Baroque and Renaissance architecture. So yes, the whole vibe, the global feeling of the rooms is very 19th century. There is another staircase which is as imposing and impressive as the main staircase, which leads to the second floor. And the second floor is more private because all the bedrooms are here. Those are actually not just bedrooms, but it's more like an old little suite because they all have a sitting area, their own bathroom. There is, of course, also a sitting area, which I would call a family room because it's a very private room where the guests don't go. And there's another secret staircase, which leads to the, to the roof. Yes, to the roof of the house, which actually is a hidden garden. From the street, you cannot see it. You can just see the roof, but inside the roof, there is an actual garden with grass, a fountain, a lot of antique statues, and some seats, tables, and everything you need to have a good time outside. I love this theater, and it reminds me of the mega mansion I've built quite a long time ago already, which had a secret garden hidden in the roof, and I love this theater. But this one is much larger, and it feels really cool to have your own private garden inside a big city. It's a real luxury. So I almost told you everything except for the basement. So if you remember, I told you there was a sitting room which I turned into a staircase going down. This pool is inspired by antique architecture, especially by antique theaters, especially when it comes to the main big wall of the swimming pool, or of the room, not the swimming pool itself, but the room where the swimming pool is located, with all these different niches and friezes, columns, antique statues. So yes, my inspiration was the antique theaters, the Roman antique theaters mostly. And the terrain, as it's quite small, it's a 30 by 30. I'm not used to 30 by 30, but it was quite tricky to build a huge pool. So I had to find a way to fit it. So I don't really know how to explain it, but you will see it in the video itself. The actual swimming pool is actually located under the entrance to the room, which homes the swimming pool. I don't know if that makes sense. Anyway, I really wanted it to be super fancy and really over the top, just like the rest of the house. So I used caryatids, I think it's how it's called also in English. Those are the statue which actually support the upper floor. Once again, they're ornaments, columns, antique chairs and statues, and it gives a very antique Roman feel to the whole thing, I think, and I just love it. So this was the last thing to say about the house, which as you can see is really huge, and that's why the video is quite long. To be completely honest, I spent so much time in it that I'm not sure I will build huge houses in a recent future. I will probably focus on small houses and probably something in a more modern style, or not so fancy and full of ornaments and details, because it's really time consuming, you know. Not that I don't like it, I really do, but sometimes it's just too much. I spent probably 1.5 months working on this, because every time I was there, just building this room was really exhausting and I wanted to do something else, so that's why it took me such a long time. So yeah, I really hope you will enjoy this build. It will be, of course, available on the gallery, even though I'm aware that a lot of you won't be able to run it on your computer because it's really demanding. I think it's really a huge build with so many objects to load that I think it will be a bit laggy with some computers. With mine, it was quite okay, even though sometimes I had frame rate drops. But yeah, just know that you won't probably be able to play with a really high frame per second rate. So yes, just know it. Now it's time for me to let you enjoy the end of the video and the end views, in which you will see some rooms that you can't see in the speed build itself. So enjoy, and feel free to comment, share, like and subscribe. I will see you next time. Bye.